Hello and welcome to this week's episode of For the Love of Chiropractic, 3 Keys of My Success. If you're one of our newer listeners, welcome to the show. Glad you're here. Glad you're joining our community of chiropractors from literally around the world. Also, if you're one of our long-term listeners, welcome back. Glad you're here and enjoying every one of these episodes that we get to bring to you. By the way, if you know a successful chiropractor that you think needs to be interviewed, whether it's yourself or somebody who's helped mentor you, and you think they should be interviewed on this podcast, reach out to me via the website, fortheloveofchiropractic.com, and I would love to speak to you and them to help more chiropractors become more successful all the time. On this week's show, I get to interview a doc who's been in practice for over 20 years, and he and his associate make a dynamic duo because they practice in New York City, and their secret sauce, their special ingredient, is they are fantastic at connecting with all of their patients, from the young hipsters all the way up to, into, and including the Orthodox Jewish members in their community, and they have a fantastic practice. I have been there. I have seen it personally. I hope you enjoy hearing this interview with Dr. Jared Hoffman. Welcome to another episode of For the Love of Chiropractic. I'm your host, Dr. Robert Freeman. I've been in practice for over 30 years, and I continue to work in a $1 million practice that I built, ran, and sold. I've taught, lectured, and coached our profession, and helped so many chiropractors build the practice and the life of their dreams. And now, I want to help you do the same. So here's today's show. I have on the phone with me today a longtime friend of mine and fantastic doctor. His name is Dr. Jared Hoffman. Jared, are you there?
I am here.
And welcome to the program. I'm so glad you're able to make the time to join me today.
Thank you for having me. This is exciting.
So I got to start because obviously everybody doesn't know you nearly as well as I do. How many years have you been in practice?
We're rounding out the end of the 23rd. So.
All right, so 23 years. That's awesome. And you graduated from where?
Life University back in 2001.
Life in 01. Awesome. All right. So tell me a little bit about your path to becoming a chiropractor.
So, a unique path because my mother had, when I was very young, my mother had horrible sciatica. And she went to a chiropractor and fell in love with chiropractic. She actually went to Dr. Larry Markson, and she fell in love with the miracles of chiropractic and eventually became his front desk CA. And at the time when he left practice, because he couldn't practice anymore, and started helping coaching and consulting chiropractors, teaching them what it takes to run a chiropractic office and everything that encompasses helping more and more people in a successful practice, she went with him. So my whole life I've been around chiropractors, arguably some of the most successful chiropractors in our profession. It's all I've ever seen and known. So when I was in high school and I had to write my high school essay for college, I actually wrote about wanting to be a chiropractor.
That's very cool.
It was. As a matter of fact, when I met my college advisor at Indiana University, he said, I've never had anybody who wanted to be a chiropractor. And for the next 3 years, anybody who told him they want to be a chiropractor, he gave them my number. Nice.
Look at that. So you were a college advisor while you were still in college.
Yeah. Funny thing, they never paid me on that one.
Yeah. All right. So fast forward. You get out of college, you get out of chiropractic school. Did you associate or did you open a practice privately?
I associated right out of school. I went for an interview. I actually associated with Melinda Keller. When I went on the interview, the first patient I saw in the morning before patient hours was a 110-pound yellow lab. And I said, this place is for me. I want to learn from this person. And, Melinda Keller, became, my mentor, my first of many mentors, and one of my best friends to date.
Fabulous. Yeah. And she's actually agreed to be on the podcast as well at another time. So So were you with her for how many years, and then how did that transition to now you're in your own practice?
Yeah, so we started out, and early on, she had a lot of associates, and she gave me an opportunity, day one, minute one, and said, if you can keep up with me and learn from me and do what I can do, I will figure out a way to make you a partner. And within 6 months of my associateship with her, we had found a space. By a year out, actually 14 months after I started with her, we opened an office together in another part of Brooklyn. And it was great because I was constantly learning. I mean, the early days were the best of associateship for sure. I mean, I think I lived about 45 minutes from the practice, and I didn't want to sit in traffic. So I would come in, maybe an hour before patients started. Mm-hmm. And I would stay with her 2 hours every night after patients left. And we would just go over every aspect of practice, learning about the patients and, all the things that you do as a doctor, as a caring doctor, wanting to help people and build those relationships.
Man, no wonder you've become such a success. I mean, having grown up with chiropractic, having your mother's boss, Larry Markson, and always being around all of those seminars and all that information, and then working with someone like Melinda Keller, I'm not at all surprised. So now I want to transition just a little bit because are you still partners with her, or your practice is completely yours?
Yeah, so my practice is completely mine.
All right.
Years later, from a practice standpoint, we separated, remained great friends, which was always another accomplishment.
Absolutely. Doesn't happen nearly often enough in our profession.
No, not, and even in the business world, it doesn't happen that much. But right. No, so I've been running that practice by myself since 2010, right around the time I had my second child was born.
And congratulations on both children, and obviously a wonderful family. So,
thank you.
So you're in practice. Tell me about what makes your practice special and unique.
Well, being in Brooklyn, in a major city, but certainly Brooklyn is known for its diversity. So my practice is located in the heart of a religious Hasidic Jewish community. And many, many years ago when we first started, it's probably the group of people we were really catering to. But as Brooklyn has boomed and everybody from around the country wants to move here when they're done with college, and it's very popular. We are such an amazing melting pot of different cultures, ethnicities, religions, age groups. It's fun to see it because you're leaving one room adjusting a 6-month-old baby, and you're going into the next room of adjusting a 70-year-old Hasidic person, and the next room is a 25-year-old athlete, and it's really fun.
That's really cool. But of course, a spine is a spine, and a nervous system is a nervous system, and they're all subluxated.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's really, really cool. So as you've become so successful over the years and with all your training, and I know I cued you with this, before we actually started the recording, what would you say to a doc, whether, just out of school or trying to become more successful? What are your 3 keys of success? What did you really focus in on? What do they need to focus in on?
So I think the first thing, and I already hinted at it, is mentorship, and I mentioned Melinda was my first mentor. You were a mentor. I mean, Larry Marks and Rick Marks and Brett Axelrod. I mean, I can really go on and on and on and on. I mean, I've had mentors for so many different aspects of my life, from my health to the practice. And I think having a mentor, Dan Cox, who can help you identify and bring out the best in you is the best. As a matter of fact, my first coaching I ever did was with Rick Markson, who really helped me with an awareness that, I had, Larry Markson teaches MFTP, mother, father, teacher, preacher, right? That, we learn at a very young age the actions, attitudes, and beliefs of, the people who have influenced us. And in today's day and age, it's not just the people, it's the technology, et cetera. And my influences had created, had such an impact on me that my relationship with my wife was not as good as it could be. My first year when I coached with Rick Markson, he had confronted me and brought me to this awareness. And, instead of being defensive, I listened to him and I accepted it and I took it in. And I spent a year working on my relationship, just being a better husband. That year, my practice grew 20%. And it was the coolest thing because, I know a lot of practitioners are out there and I know there's still, even seasoned practitioners. What do I do? What do I do? And, it's, if you don't change the who, then the do doesn't really change either. So I worked through my mentorship and through all these coaches I've worked on that. So I think mentorship is number one, and it brings number two, which is awareness. I think you have to be honest with yourself at times, which can be tough. It is sometimes a challenge to hold the mirror up and admit the things you may not want to admit and close doors and there's nobody listening. But, if you can identify your weaker areas, or at least the areas that there's still room to grow, it's a huge help. And then from there, you can decide the actions you want to take, and the directions you want to go. And, like I said, I'm, finishing up that 23rd year, and I'm still looking at, what are the areas that I need to grow or want to grow now? I guess I really don't need to grow, but I enjoy it. It's fun. It takes away the stagnation, because 23 years later, quite frankly, a spine is a spine is a spine. It's the people behind that spine. It's the subluxation that's interfering with someone from their potential, whether it's peak performance, whether it's the developmental delay in a child. It's all there. And, so for me, those the mentorship, the awareness, and then taking action upon that, I would say those are the three things that were big and a huge impact on me.
So I want to make sure that I heard that third one correctly, because I almost feel like we glossed over it. So taking action.
Yeah, absolutely. Once you figure out, where your sticking points are, where your opportunities for growth are, creating an action plan for that, whether it's goal setting, visualizations. This past year alone, as we've discussed this in detail. I've gotten really deep into the art of visualization and meditation, and just slowing down the mind and visualizing in such vivid detail every morning, what it is I want to create and attract. And it is amazing how instantaneously you just change your vibrational frequency, and everything from that point forward seems serendipitous.
Yeah. As you and I have talked about, and I've said on the podcast before, once you've identified what it is you want, and with crystal clear vision, clarity, it is amazing how fast either it's attracted to you, you manifest it, but it appears in your life.
Yes. And to add to that, above and beyond the crystal clear vision, if you can go to that next level, which is if you can feel what it feels like to have that experience. Joe Dispenza talks about that all the time. That's the key to unlocking the whole thing. But it starts with, the ability to quiet your mind, because your past experiences are going to tell you what you can or can't do. And once you master that, and again, it took a while to get to this. This is the journey I'm on now. But as Brett Axelrod used to say, being on the journey is the key. So that's the other, that's the fourth, if you will. I know you only asked for three. Sorry.
See, you're an overachiever. I knew that.
Yeah, but the fourth one is definitely, just staying on the journey and enjoying it too.
So it's not just being on the journey; it's enjoying it along the way.
Absolutely.
So, all right. So as people are listening to this, I got to ask you a question that I've asked everybody. If a doc is just getting out of school today, or they're sitting in their practice and they're just not as busy, they're not as successful as they want to be. With everything that you know and everything that we've discussed, is it possible today to become wildly successful if you're not there now?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And again, the first thing I would do, I can't recommend strongly enough associateship. And associating with the right doctor is just as important as the associateship. You know, there are doctors out there that, as a lead doctor, they just want a pair of hands. You know, I studied under someone whose attitude was their responsibility was to make sure that I would be a successful chiropractor. So my attitude with an associate is to teach them so that if at any point in time they choose to go out and help people in another area, another town, another city, another state, they are equipped to go do that and be successful and help their community. So I do think it's not just any associateship, but finding the one where the doctor is equally as enthusiastic to teach you what they know. You know, 20 years, 15 years, 10 years of experience, that's a lot of experience. And can be handed down. Absolutely.
I've told docs for many, many years, the worst reason to hire an associate is because you want to get out of your office. The best reason to hire an associate is because you have a passion to help more people. So you need another pair of hands that you can share all of the wisdom that you've acquired with a younger doc and help move the chiropractic profession forward even more.
Couldn't agree more.
Yeah, absolutely. So as we're coming around the bend, so you have an associate who works with you in your office who I've met. I think he's a phenomenal doc. Tell me how the two of you work together in the office.
We work incredibly well. We are in sync. We communicate well. We first and foremost, we have a lot of fun. And it's not that we're laughing and joking, though we could be, but we're enjoying our time together. You know, we both. I've practiced without an associate. He's practiced on his own as well. We both enjoy each other's company. We enjoy leaning on each other. We enjoy the opportunity to do that, but we also enjoy impressing each other. Mm-hmm. So, you know, the opportunity for if there's a day where he's not in and I am in, you know, for me to kind of almost brag at the end of the day, like, hey, look what I got accomplished. And, you know, it's good. It's fun. We motivate each other. And we celebrate together. You know, it's wonderful to be able to celebrate that with someone, you know, the success of a patient hitting a milestone, a patient having a child, you know, those kind of things. And obviously, you know, when patients share with us some of the tragedy that happens in life, you know, it makes a world of a difference to do it, you know, with a partner along the way.
Absolutely. And someone who's in the game, as we say, and involved, and you're going tit for tat, not against each other, but actually with each other.
Absolutely. And, you know, I've spoken with chiropractors in the past about, you know, associates are really, you know, to me, I've always referred to the associate as a partner when I speak to other patients, because they're partnering in the care of that patient versus an associate. And I think it speaks volumes to the energy that you're creating in the practice, you know, amongst the providers as well as the patients to the providers.
Exactly. I couldn't agree more. So, all right, we're starting to run short on time, so I've got to ask you another question. So, sure. Being as successful as you are and have been and seen it over the years, how do you define business success?
Well, that's actually a tough one. And I think you told me I was going to have this one, but I don't know that I thought on this one. I think business success is a combination of providing great services and care at a fair fee for your patients. I believe in giving them more of your energy. So not necessarily giving them free things, but If someone pays you $80 for an adjustment, you give them $90 worth of your energy when you're with them. So you're always creating that karmic debt. But I also think part of that business success is saving. Many business owners spend what they save. Sometimes they spend more than they save. Sometimes they spend more than they make. I was taught years ago, when your income comes in, put 10% aside at the end of the year. You have to pay tax on whatever's left over, but then you've got a chunk left over. So, for me, and all the mentors I've ever had, I've noticed that they were always, financially sound and solid, and they flourished. And it seemed the way they did it was, they just always saved a percentage of what they made. So, I've kind of gotten, if you will, addicted to that, where when the practice is flourishing, I'm more excited about what we can save and, how much more versus what I can spend. I know a lot of people will look at that and say, all right, this is, if it costs me X to live, well, I have 2X this month, I'm going to spend 2X. I get excited to spend X to live, but have another X to save.
Right. And to me, what's fun is if you have 2X to spend and you only spend 1X, so be it, that other X starts to pile up.
Yes, it does.
And next thing you know, it's not that you made 2X, but there's 5X sitting over there, or 10X sitting over there, or 100X sitting over there. And and that gives you the freedom to do whatever you want to do. That's the definition of financial freedom, in my mind.
Absolutely. You were a great, guiding source for me and mentor, and that Dr. Brett Axelrod as well. That was something that was really important to me early on. And like I said, I had bought a practice. I bought my partner out of a practice the same year my second child was born. So it didn't feel like I was very flush. And it felt like I was living paycheck to paycheck. But having some systems in place that supported financial success down the road. And here I am. It's not that far down the road, but it's 15 years down the road. And wow, little by little, funny how the tortoise wins the race.
Exactly. So now, speaking of winning the race, while business is incredibly important, and obviously chiropractic is phenomenal, how do you define personal success?
For me, it's relationships. It's some of the most important relationships in my family. My three top values are family, health, and security. So everything I do goes through that. And, my family is so important to me. So I have an incredible relationship with my wife. We're married 19 years. We know each other 21 years. We communicate very well. We're honest. We're open. 2 boys, 14 and 17. Things are getting a little wild these days, but it's still a blast, and they're very honest with us, and vice versa. And then, of course, my extended family. Health is very important to me. I personally transformed my health many years ago. I had health challenges. I lost weight. I got into shape. I never really miss a day of exercise. I eat well. Of course, I like my wings, and I plan on eating them for the Super Bowl. But but that's all part of the personal success is keeping your body healthy. For me, my body, my mind, the relationships, it's all part of the package.
I love that. Jared, I can't thank you enough. Dr. Jared Hoffman, it has been a pleasure to have you on the podcast today, and thank you so much for taking and making the time.
Thank you for having me. I really appreciate it, and I'm very grateful to be able to share this with everybody.
All right, and that's our show for today. If you have a question about today's show or your own practice, feel free to reach out at fortheloveofchiropractic.com. Before making changes to your practice, be sure to seek legal advice regarding those changes and regulations in your state. For the Love of Chiropractic is an RGF production, all rights reserved. And thanks for listening. Original music provided by Hunter Rich Music.